Welcome to another edition of ATL Prime Sports. I'm JJ Jurjevich. Joining me is Wayne, our fabulous producer in Memphis, Tennessee. And you can find us at ATL Prime Sports on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. I'm filling in for the one, the only Todd Corder. Again, this is ATL Prime Sports. You can find me at JJ Get You One. You can find our fabulous producer Wayne at RWY Jr. And let's go ahead and get into it. Wayne, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing pretty good. College basketball just got kicked off. Memphis won their game last night against Tennessee Tech, and all of the new recruits that Memphis got performed fabulously. So I'm very excited about this upcoming season.
Yeah, lots of excitement in Memphis basketball. Coach Anthony Hardaway really bringing the heat to Memphis basketball, getting all the recruits, the Midnight Madness, the Jam-a-thon, whatever you want to call it. Looked like it was fun. Lots of excitement there. So, Wayne, I know as a fan you're really excited. I'm doing pretty good today. What's on tap for today's show? We have Dominique Soucy of PurInstinct, a new type of sport. We're going to be talking about that. Voice of the Georgia State Panthers, Dave Cohen, will be joining us. We're going to talk about the college football playoffs and much more right here on ATL Prime Sports, along with, of course, our pick six for the week. So let's go ahead and get into it. Our first guest of the night is Dominique Soucy, creator and CEO of PurInstinct, the world's most athletic sport. Dominique, welcome to ATL Prime Sports, man. How you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing fabulous, actually. Fabulous. Just finishing my skateboarding session with my kiddos, so it's perfect.
That's awesome. Well, Dominique, I'm really interested in to hear about PurInstinct in this new sport. Why is it considered the most athletic sport?
Actually, it's the most athletic sport because on the same field, we're gonna have football players, basketball players, soccer players, rugby players, and they all mixed up together as one. Okay, so there's no sport on the planet that I know of, and I know plenty of them that require you to catch the ball, punch the ball, kick the ball, and just run with the ball like a tag game. So it's like a mix up of everything, and that's why when you play it, it's not about just one or two skills. You have to have to master all the skills. And when we say the most athletic sport, you have to think about it's not just like using both athletic. You have to be smart. So for me, like my favorite basketball player ever when I was playing ball was actually Manu Ginobili. And I think that he's one of the most underrated athlete of all time because of his sports instinct, is the game sense. So when I'm talking about like the most athletic sports, I'm also including the game sense, okay? How you feel about the game, the angles. So that's everything for me.
That's awesome. I hear you mentioned Manu Ginobili, one of my favorite basketball players, brought the Euro step into the NBA. So I know what you mean about athleticism there. Let's talk about the rules, the object, and basically the game in general and why it's going to take over the world.
Yeah, man. So basically the rules itself is like a 3-on-2. So you have to like figure out, I'm a former basketball player, so for me, like it was natural to invent that kind of game. So you have to think it about as a tag game. So before the Squid Game was like popular, like we were like there first actually with a simple tag game where your goal as an offensive team is to get across the field without getting touched and without dropping the ball. And you always going 3 against 2. So that's like really particular about like PurInstinct, is that you always have that 3 against 2 concept, but you have to go like without getting touched, tight space, and there's a shot clock too, a 16-second shot clock. So you don't have time like to just like cool off or chill. You have to go to the end zone. And if you don't go to the end zone, that's one out, like in baseball. And if you go, that's 1 point. So there's no in between two. There's no like in flag football or like football where you get your first down. Okay, that's nothing for us. Okay, if you go across the field for 30 yards, that's 1 point. But if you go and get touched at 29 yards, that's just one out. Okay, there's no points for that. So you have to be really smart about how you run actually to that end zone because you want to make it.
I see. So why don't we get a little bit more into it? How can our listeners find the rules, find the closest event and you have an event coming up here in the Atlanta area. Tell our listeners about that.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, like all about pure instinct. So pure without the E, because I'm francophone. I'm from Quebec City, Canada, so I want to represent that in my name too. So pure without the E, and then after that, you put that everywhere. We also on TikTok. We're pretty big on TikTok. So pure instinct on TikTok, pure instinct on Instagram. If you go on our, I think you're a member of our Instagram account. You're gonna see some crazy things like coming up like in the next weeks. Actually, we're just starting with content. Okay, we're gonna be like a small media company with the content we're gonna produce in the next weeks. And like I said, like next week we're gonna be in Atlanta. We're gonna have 2 events. Most of our events right now are invitational only. So basically, it's only college athletes, the former college athletes, former pros that are invited to the events. So we have one at Anderson Park, which I think is like west of the city, and another one is Hammond Park, which is in Sandy Spring. So Saturday and Sunday, both at 2 p.m. So should be explosive though. Like I already have like former NFL guy coming up. Like today, I got confirmed by some basketball player that coming in. So we're sold out right now, and I'm pretty pumped about it.
Well, that's great to hear. So again, how can our listeners find you, Dominique, on social media, and how can they find Pure Instinct on social media?
So let's go like Twitter. Twitter, like the best way. Like I love Twitter, so you can go over there. Twitter at Pure Instinct. That's actually me. Like out there. If you go Twitter at Pure Instinct HQ, that's gonna be kind of the overall Pure Instinct. You can go on PurInstinct.com. That's like the best way to actually see the rules and everything. And if you go on YouTube, you're gonna find like a plenty of videos too. So that's perfect. But if you go like on Instagram, I think that's one of our best platform right now because it's so like beautiful the way we can actually produce the stuff over there. So I would go on, if I were you, like go Instagram. If you want to have fun, go on TikTok.
Well, Dominique, I'm looking forward to seeing what Pure Instinct brings to the table. A lot of athleticism, a lot of excitement. And tell our listeners one more time the next couple events and the dates that are coming up here in the Atlanta area so our listeners can get in contact with you.
So Saturday, not this week, Saturday the 20th, we're going to be at Anderson Park at 2 p.m. Okay, 2 p.m. to 3:30. And then on the Sunday, 21st, we're going to be at Hammond Park in Sandy Spring from 2 p.m. to 3:30 also.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first. Pure Instinct, the most athletic sport in the world. I'm anxious to see it. I'll probably be out there with Dominique on the 20th and the 21st, checking it out and giving you the feedback right here on ATL Prime Sports. And that wraps it up. Dominique, I want to say thanks for coming on the show today. Any final thoughts for our listeners?
Yeah, just like show up. Like if you want to see something special, you're gonna be surprised. Like I can tell you, some of the people like, 3-on-2, that looks easy. You're gonna see some really good athletes. Okay, they're gonna struggle. Okay, they're gonna struggle with their cardio. They don't know it yet, so I hope they're not listening right now. They're gonna struggle with their cardio because it's really intense. But they're also gonna struggle to score. Okay, it might finish like 0-0 for quite a bit. So that's gonna be quite a show actually.
Well, that's awesome. Well, Dominique, thanks for coming on ATL Prime Sports. We're looking forward to hearing more from Pure Instinct.
All right, JJ. All right, see you guys.
Take care. It's Dominique Soucy, CEO and creator of Pure Instinct. And that will lead us into our next guest. Dave Cohen, voice of the Georgia State Panthers, joins us. Dave, welcome back to ATL Prime Sports, man. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you guys this evening?
We're doing great. We just got off the ringer here with my friend Dominique Soucy, who's a new sport bringing into the town. Kind of a little bit of everything, he says. Rugby, soccer. So we were just learning about that. But Dave, let's talk about those Panthers and a near just this close to knocking off the Louisiana Raging Cajuns. Tell us about the 3-0 lead going into the second half and what went wrong for the Panthers last week in Lafayette.
Again, one of those ball games that kind of reminded me a little bit of being at Auburn, where we just were not able to hold on at the end. And for example, at Auburn, you remember we scored 24 points in the first half, didn't score any points at all in the second half. Had that 3-0 lead at Louisiana Lafayette last Thursday night. And, it went back and forth. We went up 10-0, then it's 10-7, then it's 14-7 Louisiana. We come back and go up 17-14, and then they come right down and score a touchdown and go up 21-17, and they were able to hold on. And defensively, I thought for the most part we played well, but Levi Lewis, one of the top quarterbacks in the Sun Belt Conference for Louisiana, they've got good running backs. I mean, they're not 8-1 because they're not a good football team. They've already won the Sun Belt Conference Western Division. So they're going to host the Sun Belt Conference Championship game against whoever comes out of the East. Will that be Coastal Carolina, where we play on Saturday? Will that be Appalachian State, who we've already played and lost to? So that still remains to be seen. But yeah, Louisiana, that's another one of those opportunities that got away from Georgia State, much like Auburn. It was an opportunity, to beat not only a team that we still have never beaten in the Sun Belt, but one that is ranked in the top 25. Imagine that, guys. If we had beaten Auburn and Louisiana, Georgia State would have tonight. We would be able to say Georgia State has beaten two teams out of the top 25, something the program has not managed to do in the prior 11 seasons. They've had two really good opportunities this year, but both times stung late and not able to pull it out. And again, we're at Coastal Carolina on Saturday, so another opportunity to do that. The interesting thing about that series, and they beat us easily last year in Atlanta, 51-0, and we beat them 2 years prior at Coastal Carolina. But in the last three meetings, the road team has come away victorious. So we'll see if that streak continues this Saturday for Sean Elliott and this Georgia State football team, because right now at 4-5, depending upon what happens at Coastal Carolina, and they're 8-1 and 4-1 in league play, if we're able to win at Coastal Carolina, the final two games are at home, Arkansas State and Troy. And as you know, we got to get to 6 in order to be bowl eligible. So right now we are at 4. It'd be great to be 5-5 coming out of Conway, South Carolina, Saturday night. If we don't, then pressure's on to beat Arkansas State, who is struggling this year, and Troy. And Troy is kind of like we are, kind of one of those middle-of-the-pack Sun Belt Conference teams.
All right. Well, Dave, I watched that game, and of course, I was tweeting during the game as well. And I thought it was interesting. The commentators were calling it the Fun Belt. I don't know if it's y'all like that or not, but I had a lot of fun watching the game, and I thought that Georgia State had a good chance to win. But bouncing off of that loss and everything else, how does this set y'all up for what appears to be a really, really good basketball team?
Well, we had our second broadcast of the season. They Georgia State opened up the regular season last night against the Barons of Bruton Parker, an NAIA program out of Mount Vernon, Georgia. And it's very typical of what you see in some instances around college basketball at this time of the year. Those first 3 or 4 non-conference games sometimes can get a little out of control. And that's kind of what happened. They had won their first game at Thomas University on Monday night. And then they come into Atlanta the next night against what is a pretty good Georgia State basketball team. I mean, I'm not saying outright we're going to win the league. What I'm saying is that we're going to, if we're able to stay healthy and get back the 1 or 2 kids that are sidelined right now with nagging injuries, we're going to be pretty good by the time we get to Sun Belt Conference play. We're pretty good right now, just not at full strength. And so it just got out of hand last night, 97-37 the final score. Just one of those NCAA mid-major, what we'll call a really good mid-major group of 5 program against a struggling NAIA program. And there's really not a whole lot more to say about it. I'll give them credit. Bruton Parker, again, coming off their first win. They came in with a little bit of momentum for them. but they never stopped up until the final buzzer. And one of our keys to the game on our ESPN Plus and radio broadcast, after having played Clayton State in an exhibition game, and they came away with 11 offensive rebounds, was that, look, no matter who you're playing, you got to protect the boards.
Yeah.
And so that was one of my keys to the game last night. And there were some stretches where, offensive rebounds, I'm not going to say they were a problem. They're not a problem because of the way the score was, but if they're a problem when you're playing a pretty good basketball team, as we will on Friday afternoon against the Northeastern Huskies out of the Colonial Athletic Association, then it could have more impact. So, again, not a whole lot of mistakes. They played with a big lead for most of the ball game. It goes in the win column, and now we move on. But, yeah, Georgia State basketball, when everybody's healthy, when Colin Moore and Eliel Saseme come back, and Eliel, by the way, is the guest in our Panther Insider podcast this week, which will come out on Thursday. Very, very interesting interview for a kid out of the Democratic Republic of Congo who gets on an airplane, flies to Canada to enroll in school and play basketball, has a very good prep school experience, and, a good basketball player, signs at the University of Cincinnati, was there when Georgia State and Cincinnati met in the NCAA tournament in 2015 in Nashville. And shortly thereafter, after 2 years there, ends up transferring to Atlanta to play for Georgia State. So, again, to push the podcast a little bit, it is a really interesting story. Even I learned some stuff about him that I was not previously aware of. But his journey has taken him to Atlanta. Right now he is sidelined with an injury. But when he comes back and when Colin Moore comes back, Georgia State is going to be a very, very strong team in the Sun Belt. And I'll be anxious to see how we play. Our 2 Power 5 non-conference games are at Georgia Tech, who we beat last year in 4 overtimes. And, of course, they lost to Miami of Ohio last night in their opener by 3. And then we play in Starkville at Mississippi State. So I'll be anxious to see if we're at full strength by those 2 games, how we fare against the one SEC and the one ACC opponent.
Yeah, and there's 2 non-conference games that look like they could be tough. I don't know how Richmond in this year, but Richmond sometimes surprises people, and Mercer really gave a surprise to who they played earlier this, for that opening game. I think they almost won that game.
They were at Arkansas, weren't they?
Yeah. And I think they may have. I don't think they won that game, but for most of the game, they were leading that game.
Yeah, well, they have become in their own right a power in the Southern Conference since leaving the Atlantic Sun to go to the SoCon. So we're playing them, as you said, this year. We have played them pretty much home and home, alternating years. The last 3-4 years. And, I think that's a good game for Georgia State and for the Mercer coaches to keep on the schedule. It's an hour and a half down to Macon. It's an hour and a half for them up to Atlanta. Again, we shared a conference in the old Transamerica Athletic Conference and then in the Atlantic Sun for more than 20 years. And, again, along with Georgia Southern, who we're back in the conference with, Mercer and Georgia Southern are the 2 programs that we have played the most in the history of Georgia State basketball. So, hats off to both coaches for the willingness to continue the series, even though we're no longer conference mates.
It'd be a shame not to put that on TV because that's going to be one heck of a crowd being so close to each other.
Wayne, not everything has to be on television. As long as it's on radio.
Okay.
I'm kidding. It'll be on ESPN Plus, no matter where it is. If it's in Atlanta, then we'll be doing it. If it's in Macon, then they'll be doing it, and we'll be on radio. So, no, I'm just messing with you. Everything is everything not televised nowadays?
Seems like it. I mean,
it pretty much is. Much is.
When I bring the waste management trash can and the recyclables up my driveway to the thing, there's an ESPN Plus camera crew there waiting to video because people need to see that.
Yeah.
Dave Cohen brings in the waste management bin. How did you do it today?
every time I open the mailbox, go ahead and make that noise.
Man.
The same thing. I mean, that's just the direction everything's going. Radio is taking a bit of a backseat. Everybody wants to be able to see. Personally, I'm of the age I like to listen. especially in a sport like baseball. I mean, to me, baseball on the radio it's the way it's supposed to be. But when I say old school, I'm more 70s, late 60s fan of Major League Baseball. So that's how I remember it. I remember, and as you do too, Wayne, you probably don't, JJ, but there'd be one game on a week, and that was Saturday afternoon, and more often than not, it featured the Yankees.
Well, I listened to plenty of stock car racing with Eli Gold calling radio on that, and he did a fantastic job of describing what was going on.
Sure, this is the Motor Racing Network.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm with you on that too. I always, when I first moved to Atlanta, for whatever reason, I got caught up in NASCAR. Back before it came as corporate as it has become nowadays. And I had a couple of drivers that I pulled for, but I loved listening to NASCAR on the radio. I thought those guys did a fantastic job. They still do. It's hard to hear it in Atlanta, but when I'm somewhere that I can hear it, I enjoy their coverage and the way they cover races.
It's fun. It's fun to listen to. Absolutely. The games are shifting away from radio, unfortunately. I'm the same way. I'm an old breed in a young body. I enjoy listening to a football game, baseball game. Heck, I really enjoy listening to Steve Holman call the Atlanta Hawks. I find myself going in my car and listening to Hawks games in the fall. So you're listening to Dave Cohen right here on ATL Prime Sports. You can catch Dave at GA State Voice. That's GA State Voice on Twitter for Dave Cohen. Dave, it's the end of going back to football here. It's the end of the 3-game road trip that we talked about. It is going to Conway, Carolina, playing the Chanticleers. What do the Panthers have to do to come away victorious, and how do they catch the call on the radio network for all us radio fans?
Well, yeah, I mean, radio has its place because you live in Atlanta. I know you're in Memphis. JJ, no matter really what time of the day, what time of the night you're in the Atlanta area, there's a million cars on the road.
Correct.
And they're not all sitting there streaming ESPN Plus on their phone while they're driving.
Not at all.
They might be listening to Sirius XM, but you can get a lot of games on that, or they're listening to terrestrial radio. So I think it all has its place depending on where you are and what time of the day you are at some place. But now, we may be going into Conway at, I say the right time. The rumors are, or the latest news, if you are in the Twitter world or the Facebook world, is that McCall, the quarterback, is sidelined with an injury for them, and he's had quite a year, obviously this year again, because he's pretty much, along with Bryce Carpenter, led them to an 8-1 record and 4-1 in the league. But, he's definitely one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the Sun Belt Conference. If he's sidelined, then Carpenter will get the start. A little bit of a drop-off, but not much. The only drop-off, in my opinion, is just amount of playing time. You can only play one quarterback at a time. But, again, if we can go in there and get off to another good start, both offensively and defensively. Last Thursday night, it was a better defensive start, because we only scored the 1 field goal that we took into the halftime, locker room. If we could put them on their back heels a little bit and make them maybe sway a little bit from the middle of the road with regards to the offense and what they like to do, and put them under a little bit more pressure, then it could get interesting over there. Again, we could very well be 2-0 in this 3-game swing if we had just been able to hold on against Louisiana. But Louisiana made some big plays, and they opened up some spots in the middle of the field when you're playing off the ball and you're playing that zone defense. They had some of their wideouts basically get wide open, and they were able to move down the field at a rather quick rate late in the fourth quarter that allowed them to score that, what turned out to be the go-ahead touchdown. But the other thing about it is they're a good running football team. The top 3 guys, Shamari Jones is their number 1 running back, and they primarily run 3, not counting the quarterbacks, but all 3 of the running backs, no matter how many carries they have, all 3 are averaging over 7 yards per carry, which a lot of coaches are going to tell you one of the things that leads to success on the offense is staying out of too many 3rd and long situations. Well, if you're averaging 7 yards every time one of your running backs touches the football, then you're hardly ever in a 3rd and long or a 2nd and long, because if they're running for 7 yards, do the math. So, we've got to go ahead and run the football well. We also got to throw better. One thing that Coach Elliott mentioned in his Monday Zoom press conference, it's not that we're not throwing the ball, we're throwing it, but we're not making a lot of what he called impact throws. We've certainly increased our impact runs. We just have not increased our impact passing game. And so there needs to be a better balance with regards to that attack. But they're good. Like I said, they're not 8-1 because they're not a good football team.
Yeah, you mentioned it. If this new stat that they have, Dave, this S&P plus, which is basically the amount of yardage you get on 1st, 2nd, and 3rd down, they're getting that 7. It's going to be a tough get for the Georgia State Panthers. And I don't care who you are, 7 yards to carry is unbelievable. That's tough to stop. So, Dave, any final thoughts on the game, and tell our listeners how they can catch the game on Saturday?
All right, you can catch it live on the GSU Athletics mobile app, and if you're up in Hall County and Gainesville, 97.5 FM, WGTJ, and our flagship in Atlanta will air it at 7 o'clock, tape delayed, straight up at 7 on 88.5 FM WRAS. But looking forward to getting over there and seeing what we can do. Listen, at the end of the day, if someone told me, look, you'll beat Georgia Southern, you'll come close at Louisiana, you'll beat Coastal Carolina, might take it. And then again, our backs will be not against the wall, but there'll be a little bit of pressure to go ahead and beat Arkansas State and Troy and get one of those 5 Sun Belt Conference bowl bids. Right now, 3 of them, you know who they're going to, right?
Yep.
They're going to Louisiana, they're going to Coastal Carolina, Appalachian State. So the rest of us are playing for right now one of the final 2.
That's right. We'll always go Panthers. Dave, thanks for coming on, and we'll see you next week, man.
All right, as always, appreciate it. Fingers crossed that we play well at Coastal Carolina. We'll see you next week.
Go Panthers. Dave Cohen, voice of the Georgia State Panthers. Again, you can find him on Twitter at GA State Voice. Thanks, Dave. We always appreciate it. Wayne, let's go ahead. We got a little college basketball in with Dave. We talked a little PurInstinct, Dominique Soucy. Let's go ahead and talk about this college football playoff and these rankings. They did come out. Georgia is #1 for the 2nd consecutive week, followed by Alabama, Oregon, and Ohio State, with Cincinnati on the outside looking in. Wayne, did they get it right? I'll go with you first.
Well, if you consider TV revenue, ad revenue, and all that kind of thing, they absolutely got it right. And it's going to change each week because they're wanting to get viewers from all these different top 10 teams. I don't like the fact that they're using so many analytics to decide who belongs in the top 4. And I think it's just turned into a kind of a game show at this point.
You know, I can't argue with any of the points you just made there. I've been on Cincinnati's bandwagon since last year when they darn near beat the Dogs in the Peach Bowl. Look, you flash forward to this year, they got probably the 2nd best win in the country right now with the win on the road versus a Notre Dame team that's probably going to finish 11-1. So you know where I stand. I think they're the 4th best team in the country, at least. I personally think you could put them at #2, just like they are in the AP poll. So, no, I don't think this poll is right. I'm with you. I'm tired of seeing, okay, well, Michigan lost to Michigan State 2 weeks ago, so Michigan State was in front. Well, now Michigan's in front of Michigan State. What's got to give? So what is the algorithm? What is the equation that they are using here? Because obviously Oregon's win against Ohio State is holding water, whereas Michigan State's win versus Michigan is not. So it's all up in arms here, but we do know the end-all be-all is the best team in the country is #1, and they've looked the part. They go into Tennessee this weekend as 20-point favorites. I don't see any hiccups in the road for Georgia going down the line. They have 2 road games left, and they play Charleston Southern between the hedges. So I don't see that faltering. There's a lot of football left, folks. The Big Ten's going to have cannibalism, for lack of a better term. You're going to see a team maybe drop one this weekend. Penn State, they're going to have a lot to say in this Big Ten. They may not win the conference, or they may not even win their division, but they're going to play some big-time games coming down here. Same with Michigan, Michigan State. They're all going to end up playing each other when it's all said and done. Obviously, we've already talked about Michigan, Michigan State playing. Michigan, Ohio State will play. Michigan State, Ohio State will play. And this will all pan itself out. And we may see Cincinnati in the college football playoff. I'm not letting off on it. I think they'll be the 4th seed when they get there. And I think you'll see a Georgia-Cincinnati rematch. That's where I'm standing right now. Wayne, any final thoughts on the college football playoff poll?
I'm just saying, if it was me picking the top 4, I would say it would be Georgia, Cincinnati, Oklahoma, and University of Texas San Antonio, because those are the 4 unbeaten teams.
You know, and that's honestly, the winning game should have some merit at this level of college football. I don't know if I'd put UTSA up that high, but I would put them up there, and they are currently ranked in the college football playoff, top 25 at number 23. Them beep Roadrunners. We know how they are.
Well, Memphis knows how they are because they beat Memphis.
Well, folks, that is pretty much it. We're going to go to the most famous part of the show. It's our Pick 6 portion. Wayne, are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'll send everybody, and we'll put TC's picks up here.
All right.
3 NCAA games, 3 NFL games, Monday spread. Let's start it off with number 8 Oklahoma, unbeaten 9-0, 6-0 in the Big 12, traveling to Baylor, number 13, who's 7-2, 4-2 in the Big 12. The over-under in this game is 62.5, so you know there's going to be a bunch of points scored. But what we care about is OU is a 5.5-point favorite, and that's what we are picking. Wayne, you, then me, and we'll go.
All right, I'm taking Baylor in the points because Baylor's one of those teams that tries hard when they're, up against a wall like this.
I'm taking the Sooners to cover. I think Caleb Williams and the OU offense has really got things going. They've taken over. Since he's taken over, they're averaging about 48.5 points a game. Also, the Sooners are hard to run against. Baylor really feeds off their run game. I think Oklahoma makes the difference. Stopping Baylor's run game, Oklahoma covers. They win by a touchdown. Number 19, Purdue, 6-3, 4-2 in the Big Ten. At number 4, Ohio State. Here's one of those big games I'm circling back to. This could be a thriller. Purdue, Ohio State, 8-1, 6-0 in the Big Ten. Ohio State is. Ohio State's 20-point favorites. The over-under is 62 in this game. Wayne, what say you?
I'm taking Purdue in the points in this one. I'm not impressed by Ohio State.
It's a lot of points. I think C.J. Stroud is leading the nation's second-best offense right now. I think the Buckeyes start getting going, and they roll. I think they'll win by 21 points, but this will be a little bit more competitive game than you think. 21 doesn't always necessarily mean it's a blowout, folks. It means maybe a turnover, a pick 6 or something happens in there. But I do think Ohio State covers. Number 1, Georgia, 9-0, 7-0 in the SEC, travels to Knoxville. Tennessee's playing extremely good football. They had a big win against Kentucky last week. Tennessee's 5-4. They're 3-3 in the SEC. UGA is a 20-point favorite. The over-under, 56. Wayne, what say you?
Well, I think Georgia is going to win this game, but I'm going to have to pick Tennessee in the points because it's not going to be it's going to be less than 20 points.
It's tough on me to pick, but I'm going to say the Dogs. But I will say this: Tennessee scores more than any other team has scored on Georgia this weekend. I'm going to call a 45-20 cover. Dogs cover. No. Going to the NFL, Falcons 4-4 at the Cowboys 6-2. Cowboys are 9-point favorites. Over under 54.5 on this game. Wayne, what say you?
Well, we all know how the Cowboys like to play when they're at home, which means that Falcons have a great chance of winning this game. I'm picking the Falcons.
Picking the Falcons, I'm taking the boys. Cowboys were shocked last week. They bounced back this week. Atlanta gives up over 123 yards on the ground. Dallas is third in the NFL in rushing attack. I'm taking them Cowboys. 5-4 Browns at the 5-4 Patriots. New England is a 1.5-point favorite. The over-under is 45 in this game. What you got, Wayne?
Well, I'm actually picking the favorite in this one. I'm picking the Pats to cover.
Ooh. We're going different on a lot of games here, Wayne. This could be a big week or a weak week.
Yeah.
I'm going with the Browns. They get the third best defense in terms of yards allowed per game, second best rushing attack on offense. I think Chubb gets going. Give me the Browns and Baker Mayfield on the road. They beat Belichick. Browns, road, over Belichick. Did you get that?
I got it.
Chiefs 5-4 at Raiders 5-3. KC 2.5-point favorites. The over-under in this game is 51 and a hook. Wayne, what do you got?
Raiders in the points. Raiders in the points. I don't even think they need the points. I think they're going to beat them by more than 2.5. They're going to just beat them right out.
Man, we are way different. I'm getting Mahomes gets back on track this week. Look, the Raiders, they're a team with a bunch of off-field issues right now. They've lost their head coach. They've lost a star wide receiver, and they just lost a star defensive back. I think those issues start to bleed through. Give me the Chiefs. Give me the points. That's our pick 6. We get TC's up here. We got Wayne's there. Wayne, it's been a great show, man. Any final thoughts for our listeners?
I don't know, man. I'm just thinking Raiders with nothing to lose is always dangerous.
That's a very good point. I could be completely wrong here. I'm taking Chiefs in the points. Folks, my final thought is NFL referees, stop calling taunting. Didn't I say this earlier in the year? Folks, that wraps up ATL Prime Sports. Stay tuned for social media. We are off next week on Monday. Stay tuned to social media. We'll keep you posted on this show right here. For Todd Corder, for Wayne in Memphis, I'm JJ Jurjevich. This is ATL Prime Sports. If you like these videos, give us a like, give us a thumbs up, give us a subscribe. We'll see you later, folks. Get you one.